Our modern world forces us to deal with so much stimulation. This can leave us feeling overwhelmed and incredibly drained and tired, even if we're sleeping enough. If we continue on like this, it can begin to chip away at our mental and physical health. But for the most part, we can solve it by resting, right? Well, if you're into health and fitness, you already probably know of the importance of rest, but maybe you feel like it's hard to catch up to nowadays. As an adult in a world that revolves around productivity, it feels like there's an endless to-do list looming over us. This can make us feel guilty when resting and can even impact the quality of rest we get when we manage to actually find some time to rest. We never fully shut off until we die, I guess. So, how do we fix this? We need to figure out how to properly rest and learn how to personalize it for our specific needs and lifestyles. But not many of us realize that we need more than one type. Rest is not only physical, and according to Dr. Saundra Dalton-Smith, there are 7 types of rest. So this video is based on her model of rest, but it's more on the theoretical side of things. Even so, I found these tips incredibly helpful and they helped me create a well-rounded rest ritual. I've also included a link for a free step-by-step bonus journaling Notion exercise so you can build one too. That was a mouthful. It helps you go through and determine which type or which types of rest you are missing and how to fix it. But first, why do we need rest? The lighting is so bad in here. I can't tell if I made it worse or better. We kind of have to be in the microscope room to talk about the science. So what actually happens to the body if we keep trudging through this state of fatigue and overwhelm? The importance of getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep has been drilled into us over and over again, and many studies have shown that being sleep deprived is probably one of the worst things you can do for your body. It causes an increased risk for a range of different diseases and issues, including cardiovascular disease and a decline in cognitive function, among many others. But besides the standard 7 to 8 hours of sleep, we don't actually know how much of the other types of rest we need. However, we do know that the other types of rest have beneficial effects on us. This need varies from person to person and depends on the person's physical load, mental load, and their sensitivity to stress. So it's really all about how you're feeling, and today we'll unpack it to see what types of rest you're lacking. And this is the comfiest I probably will ever be recording a video. Alright, first up we have physical rest. We can split this up into 2 subcategories, active and passive rest. So within the passive category, we have sleep. And as mentioned earlier, getting enough sleep is super important. When we don't, it's just not fun. It can leave us feeling groggy, nervous, agitated, and it can impact our work lives, social lives, and even our overall fitness. So fixing your sleep should be step number 1. There are ways to improve the quality of your sleep during the waking day. Some examples of these are get up and get outside as soon as you wake up, or turn on the bright lights if you're unable to do so. Or do this if it's in the winter and the sun isn't up when you wake up. Both of these help to set your circadian rhythm and get you moving and alert for your working day. Even better, get outside and take a walk. Moving forward can also help us to feel alert and awake. If you're not able to get enough sleep during the night due to social pressures or work, then perhaps see if you can take up some midday naps if that option is available to you. Evening, try and minimize screen time. You want to kind of do the opposite that we do in the morning, so dim the lights, perhaps try reading instead of looking at a screen directly in front of your face, because that gives your brain the signal that it's still the middle of the day. The middle of the day. Not whatever I just said. You can also try turning on red lights or soft lights like candles instead of keeping that bright light on overhead. Finally, reduce the room temperature. So I think a room temperature of 16 is the optimal temperature for sleeping, but I will flash the appropriate temperature on the screen somewhere here when I find out. Getting enough sleep also improves our ability to learn. If we take a nap after studying or learning something new, we can often retain that information much better. So another type of rest I like to add to this category is non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR for short. This type of rest includes activities like yoga nidra or hypnosis or self-hypnosis. So if you want to know more about sleep hygiene, I'll link a Huberman Lab podcast in the description. Dr. Huberman is a neurologist at Stanford, and he knows all about the science of sleep. So next up in physical rest, we have active rest, and this one is one of my favorites. If you're lacking active rest, then you'll feel it in the body, especially in your muscles. Maybe you've been sitting too much, haven't been keeping up with your step count, or maybe you just need a massage after a tough workout. To get more active rest, we should focus on activities which boost our longevity and complement our workouts. Some of these activities include practicing gentle yoga, foam rolling after a workout, practicing hot and cold exposure, so saunas and ice baths, going for gentle walks, getting a massage as mentioned earlier, and cooking healthy, nourishing meals. Just knowing that we're taking care of ourselves can already boost our happiness and well-being. You could even go as far as buying ergonomic things like a standing desk, a walking treadmill for underneath the desk, or maybe a comfortable chair, which is healthy for your spine. Okay, we're getting out of here. God, oh my God, oh my Jesus. Next up on the list, we have mental rest, and I find this one to be so important. A lack of mental rest could manifest as feelings of overwhelm due to tasks that are unfinished, or excessive overthinking, or just a feeling of being weighed down by life. Mentally resting is meant to take this burden off your shoulders and help you breathe. So there's a load of examples of how we can practice mental rest, so I'm gonna list them off here because there's just so many. Okay, so first off, we have clearing and organizing your space. So that means taking phones off the desk, moving away papers, just organizing things so they look nice and tidy. This will help improve your productivity and focus by taking away an extra layer of stimulation or distraction. So next up, we have removing things or systems that add resistance to your work. To do this, you could take a look at your schedule or your day-to-day tasks and see which ones aren't really important, or perhaps you could delegate or even delete. Basically finding systems which may not be super efficient and either removing them or updating them. Next up, we have taking a step back or sleeping on an issue or problem you have at the moment. Often taking a break or sleeping on something gives us a fresh perspective on the problem the following morning or after that short duration. Another is completing tasks that you have been procrastinating on, such as recycling or household chores. So it's a lot easier said than done, but it's often super freeing to do something that has been just nagging on your mind for a long time. This could be a work thing, a household thing, but it could also be just a personal project you've always wanted to do. Creating a mind-clearing ritual is another one. So this could be a self-care day or any way that you can disconnect from work, giving yourself some space to decompress and not think about stressful things. We also have engaging in a form of escapism in moderation. This could be reading, gaming, watching TV shows, any place that lets you forget about the problems of the world. Finally, one of my favorites, making a to-do list for the day or week and using a brain dump to get rid of all my thoughts and ideas from the week. Personally, I use Apple Notes and Notion, and I consolidate all of these ideas onto Notion on Sundays. In fact, if I can, I do all of these organizational tasks on a Sunday, so bills or, for example, household chores. Putting it on a Sunday alleviates me of having to think about it during the week. I can kind of say, oh, I'll do it on Sunday, so it's not hanging in the back of my mind throughout the week. Following mental rest, we have emotional rest. Emotional rest revolves around kind of being who you are, feeling authentic in your actions. A lack of emotional rest leaves us feeling drained or perhaps numb. Emotional energy, for example, can be drained by putting on a certain face or emotion at work, or perhaps if you work in service, maybe putting on a smile for a customer that was rude to you. It leaves you feeling kind of defeated. To get more emotional rest in our lives, we can do a few things. Socialize with people who make us feel secure and allow us to fully be ourselves. Set aside time to try new hobbies that we've always wanted to try. We can also try and push past feelings of discomfort or just sit with feelings. This can help us push past our comfort zone and try new things that we've always wanted to. Emotional rest is all about embracing our individuality, and by doing things we enjoy and make us feel good, we improve our emotional well-being and mental well-being. Leaning in from emotional rest, we have social rest. In often our home or work lives, we have to socialize with people that we disagree with or just people who don't understand us. We also may linger in relationships which are not healthy for us. Do you agree? Do you agree? This can have a significant impact on our mental well-being, especially if you're an introvert and are kind of forced to socialize for long periods of time. So to improve social rest, we can evaluate our relationships so we can see which relationships leave us feeling relaxed or even energized as opposed to drained or exhausted. We want to find relationships which feel rewarding to us. We can also engage in fulfilling conversations with trusted friends or family members. And just in general, spend more time around people which make us feel safe and loved. Sometimes just socializing with people can help you to forget just the weight of the world, our issues, and it can also help us to learn new things about our loved ones. It helps you really identify what's important in your life. The other aspect of social rest is alone time. You left me. But alone time provides us with the important opportunity to get to know ourselves better. It's basically like socializing with yourself. Alone time also gives us the opportunity to enjoy hobbies or activities that we like to do alone. Personally, I like to do yoga alone. It lets me just put on my favorite tunes and zone out and enjoy the flow. Good old meditation seat for this one. Number 5 on our list is spiritual rest. Spiritual rest is all about connecting to our spiritual or religious beliefs. If you're lacking in spiritual rest, you may feel like your day-to-day life is a little mundane, or your actions don't matter, or you're not impacting the world, you're not making a difference. Perhaps the work you're doing doesn't feel purposeful. Personally, I'm not religious, so I find that this type of rest is nurtured for me through different means. These include things like yoga and meditation, realigning with my personal goals, my beliefs, my values, and long-term life trajectories. Also, journaling falls in this category, and taking walks in nature. What these activities do for me is just help me feel good, connected, and present. Another way to satisfy this type of rest could be looking for meaning in your life. And I believe we create our own meaning. So for you, this could be looking for a more purposeful job, perhaps it's volunteering, or it could be just simple tasks and helping others around you, perhaps like doing the dishwasher for your family or making them a cup of tea. Most of these things create a sense of meaning in our lives and help us feel like we're contributing to something bigger. Second to last on our list, we have sensory rest. Our senses can be drained by the constant bombardment of stimulation we receive daily. Companies are always buying for our attention. For example, I often find that supermarkets packed with bright products or crowds can be very overwhelming. To manage overstimulation, we can do the following. Turn off phones, screens, electronics. Shop during less busy times or avoid crowds in general. Avoid introducing background noise, music, videos while you're working on a task, and only work on one task at a time. So I have a really good personal example of this. When my mom and I drive into the city and she's the one driving, she will turn off the music as soon as she gets close to the city. This allows her to reduce the stimulation around her so she can navigate the busy and more difficult streets, especially because we live nearby a big European city and we have loads, I lost the camera, of trams. Finally, we have creative rest, and this type of rest is probably my favorite. If you feel like you're lacking passion, or inspiration, then this type of rest may be one of the types that you're missing. So a couple ways to rest our creative selves and regain inspiration is to spend time in nature, looking at vast, beautiful landscapes, enjoying the sounds and the smells. Could also be listening to emotional music or podcasts, or to stories of people that we admire. It could also be creating any form of art, so this could be painting, drawing, dancing. My favorite at the moment is videography. I love to go around and get juicy, calming shots of nature. You could also rest creatively by spending time in colorful places, colorful rooms, or perhaps libraries or cozy coffee shops, anywhere that inspires you to create something. You can also try to just be bored. That often works for me, so putting my phone away and just getting used to doing nothing often gives me enough motivation to do something other than look at my phone, if that makes sense. It gives me a little bit more of a boost to create something. It also lets your mind kind of wander, it lets your thoughts run, it lets your ideas come out of your brain in a way. All right, this is uncomfy, so I'm moving. So that's all 7. But it's a lot easier said than done. It can be challenging to put them into practice and make them habitual. However, many of the rest activities overlap and can be made into rest rituals, if you like. You could definitely hit a few of these targets within one rest session. For example, you could combine creative and social rest. You could go for a walk with a friend, have a meaningful conversation while being outside in nature. But what stops us from being able to implement these types of rest in our lives? There are loads of things in our day-to-day lives which could stop us from cultivating these habits. For example, these could be social pressures, a tight schedule, work problems, lack of energy, or even health issues. All of these things can hinder your ability to even find time to properly rest and relax. But there are a few ways to tackle this, or at least begin to think about how you're resting and the quality of your rest. Today was probably one of the most cozy days I've ever had. So maybe you've already identified a few areas where you're lacking rest. However, it's important to ask ourselves a few questions to see how our lifestyles are affecting our balance of rest. So we pretty much just mentioned the first question, but ask yourself how your lifestyle shifts your rest out of balance. For example, if you spend a lot of time at work and you get a lot of social interaction there and you feel quite tired or drained after work, then perhaps you need more alone time. Or perhaps you live in a city and you feel overwhelmed by the hustle and bustle of life there. Maybe it's time to get away from the city. This could be taking a walk in a nearby forest, or you could even go as far as booking a weekend away to nature. Now take a closer look at your schedule. Where could you fit more time in for rest? Perhaps there's some dead zones on your schedule where you could be more intentional. Perhaps schedule time to journal, to do some yoga, breath work, or even to do something like meal prepping. Next up, what kinds of hobbies or activities or wellness practices have you always wanted to add to your life? And could some of these activities tick off multiple types of rest? And finally, what are the 2 types of rest that you're currently lacking the most in? Focusing on just 1 or 2 types of rest deficits can help you build these activities and habits into your life in a much more sustainable way. Start with small daily or weekly activity additions, and then slowly work yourself up to all 7 types of rest if you think it's needed for you personally. With all that being said, stress does play an important positive role in our life. In moderation, everything is a balance. For example, it could help you push out of your comfort zone and achieve new things, such as hitting a new personal record at the gym. So the journaling exercise I mentioned at the beginning will help you identify your rest deficits and provide suggestions for activities. It will also help you identify those activities which hit more than one rest target and help you craft a well-rounded rest ritual or 2. However, it's super important to remember to not add pressure to rest. I do not want you to feel guilty about not having enough time to rest, if that makes sense. Lots of double negatives. Hopefully this video also illuminated areas where you are already resting. You may be resting much more than you actually think. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, just knowing that you're taking care of yourself can already put your mind at ease. Finally, our perception of certain activities has a big part to play in determining how much stress and rest we actually need. For example, if we're determined and we think we can push through something, then we're much more likely to complete it and come out less stressed after. On the flip side, if we think something is mentally taxing, then we're much more likely to feel stressed or worn out afterwards. Ultimately, the types of stress that are most important will vary from person to person. It's really important to find the types of rest that work best for you and your individual needs and preferences. Finally, adding a variety of different types can really help boost your mental and physical well-being. We like variety. Variety is really good for us. So I would absolutely love to know. Tell me in the comments what your favorite rest activities are. It can also serve as a reminder for other people watching the video or reading the comments to maybe try those activities. And if you feel like it, mention the types of rest you're lacking. I feel like there's probably a few of them which are a lot more common, but I'd love to figure out which ones. And if you want to know how to build these healthy habits, then I will have a video soon, probably somewhere over here. Here, I'm sure. And that's all. I hope that helped. Rest well, everybody. I'm out. I'm gonna go chill. I'm out. See ya. This is loud. I'll just wait for you to stop. Are you done yet?